Joining us is the January 2023 Happy New Year edition of IndiePy. We are still celebrating our 15 years. We kind of kept the whole year long celebrating from April to April of 15 years of IndiePy. But yeah, we started back in 2007. Oh, I hear kids coming. Thank you. I need a fork and knife, please. Yep. Thanks. Got dinner just got delivered for me, which is always a bonus. So yeah, we're definitely supporting 15 years of hosting awesome meetings and having a great community all right here in front of you. And actually, there's a ton of us all on Slack. We have a dedicated Slack organization. So if you want to be able to chat with people between meetings, Slack is a great place to do that. There is a bit.ly link here. Thank you for the Slack channel. That is an inviter and should get you joined right into the Slack channel where you can take advantage of having an awesome community at your fingertips anytime you want. So make sure you check that out and hit us up on Slack. There's a general channel right now. So if you want to ask questions during tonight's event, we will be compiling those questions. I mean, you can throw them in the Zoom chat, but it'd be easier if you throw them over into the IndiePy Slack channel under general. And then I'll make sure that Mariatta can answer those toward the end of her talk tonight. You want to follow us on Twitter? We will be live tweeting. You probably saw, you can see Cameron here in the group. Cameron's going to be responsible for doing some of the live tweeting. Make sure if you want to join in on the conversation on Twitter, you can use the IndiePy hashtag, but you can also follow us at IndiePy on Twitter. Want to thank our sponsors. We've got a couple sponsors. Specifically, I want to mention 6 Feet Up. So if you don't know, IndiePy is organized by 6 Feet Up, a company dedicated to making the world a better place by accelerating tech leaders' impact. At 6 Feet Up, our engineers specialize in app development, AI, big data, and cloud technology. Our impactful clients focus on climate action, clean energy, and initiatives that benefit humankind. I'm Calvin Hendricks Parker, as I mentioned before, and I co-founded 6 Feet Up in 1999, and I've been the CTO ever since. So I want to thank 6 Feet Up for enabling me to help build this community, because that is definitely one of my passions, is to have people around the world gather together and talk about awesome things like Python. I want to thank our platinum sponsor, JetBrains. If you are here tonight, you have a very, very good chance of winning a JetBrains PyCharm professional license. I think there's 4 of them. Is that right, Laura? There are 4 of them available this evening during our drawing. So do not run away right after the talk. So right after Mariatta is done and we've done all the kind of Q&A, I'll do our typical live code and we will do a drawing for 4 of the PyCharm professional licenses. So there's a good chance you may get a PyCharm professional license. I want to thank our bronze sponsors, Reify Health. I believe they are in a perpetual state of hiring. They're here, at least Jeff's here locally from Reify. So if you want to check them out, they're hiring Python developers. They sound like a great group. I'm looking forward to actually ever meeting Jeff in person, but I really appreciate it. They've been sponsoring IndiePy now for 2 years. So thanks to them for helping make this possible. And then JFrog, Ari, who's usually here. I don't see him in the group right now, but Ari always sponsors, and they've been a great sponsor for now almost 3 years. And there'll be a 5th door prize tonight, which will be the Adafruit Pi Portal. That's right, because I suggested it. So if you want to win some cool hardware, we've got a Pi Portal tonight that is available. Stick around again during the live code drawing, and we'll do that. If you also want to be a sponsor and enable us to do even more awesome stuff for the community, there is a link on the IndiePy.org site for becoming a sponsor, or you can just email Laura at 6 Feet Up, or if you want to email me, I'll make sure that Laura hears about it so we can get you hooked up and signed up to be an awesome sponsor of IndiePy. Even more awesome news, we are looking for speakers. I would love to leverage the IndiePy community. Over the pandemic, we've gotten a lot of speakers from a remote who are not necessarily members of IndiePy. I would love to refocus back on IndiePy members themselves. I'll be sending out Laura, I'll take that back. Laura will be sending out a recap email from tonight, and we will be asking for speakers from our community. We'd love to hear what you are talking about, what you are kind of working on and doing in the Python with Python and in the Python community. So if you want, you can go to papercall.io/IndiePy and submit your talk proposals there. We're looking for someone to present at the February 14th, Valentine's Day. It could be Valentine's Day themed if you want. That's cool too. But we're looking for some presenters. If you're looking for a career change or you're looking to hire, the IndiePy Slack organization does have a jobs channel. It's the IndiePy Slack is pretty low volume, but there's a lot of people. There's like over 600, almost 700 people on the IndiePy Slack who are dedicated to the Python language, and they're not necessarily all in Indiana. So if you want to join that IndiePy Slack and post in the jobs channel, whether you're looking for a job or whether you're looking to hire somebody, there's a jobs channel over there for you to connect with our community. The hits just keep on rolling because this is the year of our 5th annual Python Web Conference. So this is I think the premier dedicated virtual only Python Web Conference. We started in 2019. We were always virtual. We were hip about the virtual conferences before virtual conferences were a hip thing due to the state of the world. But this year we're going to have over 50 live talks. We actually have reduced our number of talks. So the choosing of speakers has been even trickier. But we're expecting over 400 attendees, definitely over 40 countries. It is a worldwide event. It happens all over the course of, was it March 13th through the 17th? So it's coming up. Laura reminded me it's only 8 weeks away. So we're in the 8-week crunch, but you can get your ticket. There is a discount code. So PWC, actually, where's the discount code at?
I will share it. It's not in this right now, but
okay. I knew we have a discount code for our loyal IndiePy followers. So make sure you check out the discount code. You can register today. Hold on a second. Puppy dog wants in. Okay, Moosh, come on. There we go. Yeah, so is going to be an awesome conference. We're going to have a app dev, a data track, culture track, cloud track. That's the main tracks, right? Laura, I missed that. There's only 4.
App dev, cloud, culture, PyData.
Yep, that's the ones I said.
Cloud. I think you missed cloud. Maybe.
No, I got cloud. Yeah, so we're gonna have an awesome time. So check that out. There'll be a discount code Laura's going to put into the channel and into the Slack as well. That way everyone here can join for a little bit of a discount. And then I'm going to kind of lead Mariatta a little bit with this. I know she's going to talk about it during her talk, but PyCon US is coming up here in, was that April? It's April, right? Yep. It's Salt Lake City. I highly recommend folks who have the opportunity to go and take advantage of to being in person and meeting with all the folks, the awesome folks who are part of this Python community. It is truly by the community and for the community. I have been going to PyCon since 2004, and I've never would not miss it because it is just such a great group of people to be around. It is not a standard commercial type conference. It is truly community run, and I cannot speak highly enough about it. And we're joined tonight by one of the future chairs of PyCon. So I won't save, I'll let Mariatta talk about that because I know that's part of one of the things she wants to talk about as part of her talk. So speaking of, we're going to get down to business now. I'm excited to have Mariatta with us tonight and to talk about contributing to Python. And I'd love to hear more of that backstory and what's going on there. So I'm going to stop sharing. I will let Mariatta get set up and tell us all about it.
Thank you so much. Let me set up my screen. Do you see the screen yet or no? Okay, great. Great, thank you so much. And thanks for the plug about PyCon. I think you're saying more than I was planning to say. I really appreciate it. But all right. So hi everyone, and thank you so much, Calvin, Laura, and like all of you from IndiePy for coming today, listening to my talk. It's really a pleasure. It's my first talk of the year, and I don't actually have any other talks scheduled, so it's very special to me. Thank you. My name is Mariatta, and I'm in Vancouver, Canada. I currently work as Senior Developer Relations Engineer at Google, where my work is to maintain Python open source client libraries for Google Cloud Native databases. And on this page, you can see my social media handles. I've started to use my Mastodon account some more, but I still have Twitter. So on Twitter, I'm at Mariatta. You can find me on GitHub, and on my Instagram, you will mostly see my travel photos and food photos. I'm a foodie, basically. All right. Yes, I am the chair of PyCon US 2023 and 2024. So this year we will come to Salt Lake City in April. And registration is currently open, so you can already buy tickets to attend PyCon. And I believe we still have the early bird discounts available right now. So if you are like one of the first 500 people who buy tickets, you get discounted tickets. After the first 500, you will be paying full price. And if cost is a concern to you, we do have travel grants application you can apply to get travel grants to help cover the cost of traveling to Salt Lake City. Application is open. Go to the website, and it's open until January 20th. So just like I think 10 days, really soon. So don't delay this application. So about 6 years ago, I started contributing to open source projects to the Python community. And what happens if you make lots of contributions to a project? At some point, the maintainer might just want to give you more responsibilities and grant you the privileges to help maintain the project. So that's how I became a Python core developer. Python core developer is basically a maintainer of the Python programming language. And as a core developer, one of the privileges I have is I get the commit right. I get to merge pull requests in CPython repository. Now, when I say that I'm a Python core developer, I feel like people have misunderstanding. Like they didn't know what it really means. I've had a lot of people who said, "Hey, you must be a C programmer," because the Python interpreter is written with C. That is very known, common knowledge, right? But I don't write C. I don't know how to program in C at all. And if you go to GitHub, it will show you what Python is made of. C is just a portion of it. It's not just 100% C code. Python is made by Python. We write Python code inside the code base. So it's not true that you need to know C in order to start contributing to Python. So don't let this blocks you from starting or thinking about contributing. There really are a lot of things involved in maintaining Python other than just writing code. So for myself, my contribution to Python has actually been in the area of documentation, the dev guide, the workflow. I made GitHub bots for Python, and I care about contributor experience. That's something I always try to listen to the contributors and think about how I, as the core developer, can help improve. And I help form the documentation community group, which is a special interest group within the core Python team. And then I co-chaired the Python Language Summit for the last 4 years, and now I'm running PyCon. So I do a lot of different things. I don't do C programming. And I'll be honest, like even for myself in the beginning, I have no idea what it means to be contributing to open source or to Python or to anything. And at first, when I hear the term open source, what is it? Like I wonder what you think of the term open source, what comes to your mind. For me, for the longest time, I simply think, open source means there's source code I can see. Like source code is available, nothing else. Like if somebody put their source code on GitHub, then it's open source. But it's not just that, it's more than that. It's also about the licensing. The license of open source will tell you how the code can be used and distributed. So just because source code is available doesn't mean you can actually use it. So you need to read the license and adhere to the rules before using it. And when there is open source project, there's a community surrounding it. So open source relies on the community, on the contributions from the community members. Then Python is an open source project. It has open source code available on GitHub. It has license, and the license is a permissive license. So it's called the Python Software Foundation license. And it's compatible with the new general public license. And Python relies on contributions from community members. And all of you here, you too are a member of the Python community, and you too can help and contribute. So there are lots of ways for you to participate and contribute to Python. Yes, you can make lots of pull requests to Python, but that's really not the only thing you can do. It shouldn't be the only thing you do. And in this talk, I will cover all of this. I will talk about all the different areas of contributing to Python. Before you want to do anything else, if you want to contribute to Python, the very first thing you should do is reading the developer guide. Everything you need to know about contributing to Python is documented here. The dev guide is basically what's known as the contributor's guide. It has lots of useful information about how we make Python. And even as code developers, we read the dev guide first before we start asking questions. And if there's something missing information about contributing to Python, after we find out the information, we will add it to the dev guide. So this is the main thing you should know about. On the dev guide, you will find lots of different sections about triaging, about the release cycle, and everything. Everything you need to know is on the dev guide. And once you read the dev guide, now you want to start creating pull requests. So in order to do that, first you need to get a source code and set up your local development environment. And then when you make the changes, say you make the change to the code, you need you write test suite, you need to update the documentation. Once you make those changes, you want to create a PR. You're going to need to sign the CLA, the Contributor License Agreement. And depending on the type of change you're making, you may need to write up a little blurb like a news entry file. So these news entries basically what gets included in the Python's what's new page. So if you ever download a newer version of Python, you want to know what's changed from the previous version. You'll be reading the what's new section. And whenever applicable, you may also need to help to backport your change. Basically, you will make your change first on the main branch on the latest version of Python. If it's a bug fix, you may need to backport it to the earlier versions that are still maintained. Basically, there's a bot that does this, but sometimes the bot doesn't work. That's where you will have to do it manually. So let's compile and build Python in the year 2023. How do you do this? So the way to set this up can be kind of different, depends on your operating system. So if you use Mac, Windows, or Unix, there might be different dependencies you need to have first. So go to the dev guide. There is a section for get started and how to set up and build Python. It has all the relevant information depending on what your OS is. What I'm showing you in this screen is the quick rundown of it. This is what happens for myself on the Mac. This is the commands I need to use. So first, you're gonna need to get a copy of the source code. I recommend using GitHub CLI. Basically, get it from the Python/CPython repository on GitHub. And then you want to configure Python first. So that's the line where you say that the /configure. If that step is completed successfully, it will produce a make file. And then in the next steps, you can run the make file. If the make file is completed, it will produce you the Python, the newest Python, straight from the source. In the year 2023, you will see Python 3.12. Next year, if you run the same command, you will likely be seeing Python 3.13, unless we somehow go to Python 4, but maybe unlikely in the next year. So now that you know how to compile into Python, you can start making code changes and build it. All right, so once you make code changes, you're gonna need to write some tests and then run it. This is actually straightforward. We use the built-in unit test module. It's just Python-m test. So make sure whenever you touch the code, you make changes, run test, and make sure it failed, because we will not accept errors where the tests are failing. The next thing you will need to do, you may need to do, is to update the documentation. And so if you change any existing behavior, you should check if the corresponding documentation will need to be updated. So it's actually also quite straightforward building the documentation in in the CPython repository, you would navigate to the doc directory. There is another make file for you. You make VM that is for set up the environment. If that step is completed, run make HTML, and it will produce all the HTML documentation files so you can open it and view the documentation on the browser. So Python documentation is written using restructured text and strings. So if you're not familiar with any of this, like you don't know what is restructured text, what is strings, I have given a talk not last year, some time ago in a Peninsula meetup. This titled Introduction to Restructured Text and Strings. So you might find it useful. You can watch it on YouTube. We do have a dedicated documentation category on our Discourse forum where you can ask questions about the documentation and you can help answer questions if you know it. And if you want to specifically work on documentation related issues, there is a docs label on the repo where you can filter out issues and PRs related to the docs. So basically anything that has RST file in the PR, it will be automatically labeled as docs. Um, and I think I mentioned about the docs community group earlier. Basically, this is a special interest group within the core Python team, which is something I helped form alongside Carol Willing and Matt Batchelder. It's a new group, so it's not very well known yet. But what is this docs community about? It's just a group of people who really care about Python documentation. Just a group of people who wants to contribute to Python, to documentation in Python. And sometimes when I talk to people and tell them about contributing to documentation, I think some people think it's only for the technical writers. Like documentation is only about writing text or correcting other people's grammar. But it's really not that. It's documentation is very big area. It's not just about writing perfect English. Within the docs community in the past year, we not only discussed the actual content of the documentation, but also the tooling and the infrastructure for building and deploying and serving the documentation itself. We have talked about how we should improve the SEO for the Python documentation. We discussed the diataxis framework, the theme for the docs, like we wanted to have responsive, mobile-friendly theme for Python documentation. We wanted a dark theme. So it's really a big topic. It's not just about writing text and fixing grammar. It's very important for Python. So if this is something you're interested in participating, so just please join us. So now you get the source code. You can build Python, you can run a test, and build a docs. So I think one of the biggest questions people ask me is that how do I choose what to work on? Like what issues should people work on? And this is really up to you. It's very self-driven. Like there's nobody who will manage you or tell you what to do or what issues you should work on. No one will be assigning you anything. Like it's all self-driven, take it your own self-initiative. Only you can decide what other things you're interested in. So if you care about async IO or security or documentation, like you need to find your own focus area. Like don't try to fix everything in Python. Find an area that you really care about because the Python code base is huge. It's like 30 years old legacy code base. So it's not possible to know everything. So I really recommend that you think about like find your focus area that you want to contribute to. You may want to subscribe to the issues related to a specific area. So if you go to the GitHub repository on Python, you can actually choose to subscribe to specific labels. So you don't have to subscribe to everything that's happening. You can choose specific labels. And once you start looking issues and you think like nothing of this seems to make sense, I don't understand any of this. This is actually normal. Like learning and figuring out what the issue is about is part of the process. It's what we do even as a core developers. We when issues comes, we don't know immediately how to fix it. We still need to review it, read the description, do some research, maybe check the commit history, take a look at old issues to understand the context. All of this is part of the experience of the contributing. And another good way to learn about the code base is actually look at other people's PRs, like help review pull requests. And this is something you can start doing without needing core developer privileges, without anything. Everything's out there. So when you review, you will get to see how a specific issue is being solved. You get to see how other people fix this issue. So the next time a similar issue is raised, or if there's a similar issue affecting the same module, you would already have some context about it. So maybe the next time this happens, you would be able to create a PR yourself. So if you want to learn about, about the code base, I really recommend starting by reviewing and just looking at other people's pull requests. And my advice here when you review pull requests is, especially if you're a new contributor, like you're not one of our triagers, you're not one of the core devs, you should always leave a comment alongside with your review. So don't just approve it without anything, like click approve without comment. You should tell us so that we can understand, we can learn to trust your decision. So when you review, you should explain why you approved the PR. You can say that maybe you've tested the change, you agree this will fix it, you agree that this is the right change, and I recommend that when you review, don't just say what's bad about it. Say if you want people to make changes to the PR, don't just say what needs to be fixed, but also explain what was done correctly or what was done well, like thank people for their contribution. So this will help the person who received the review to know that their work is appreciated, and they'll be more open for feedback this way. What about triaging? So triaging involves things like classifying issues, setting labels, setting the reviewers field. Maybe it's also involved, pinging and notifying the core developers who will look into it or who can merge it. As a triager, you can also help out closing invalid issues or issues that are no longer relevant. So all of these do need extra privileges. Um, However, even if you don't have the triage privilege, you can still help and participate. Like because in order for you to be able to actually classify an issue, you would first need to actually review and read the issue. So you can still help move the issue along by doing the research and share your suggestions. For example, if you don't actually have the ability to close the issue, you can leave a comment saying you've looked into it, you think, say, this issue is no longer relevant or something, or you want to say perhaps a core developer needs to close this or need to look into it. You can leave those comments there and it will be helpful to us. After you've done lots of reviewing and you've made lots of contributions, you might also be interested in actually taking on the responsibilities to triage, and maybe you think maybe you can help be one of the triagers. So this process is documented on the dev guide. You can read more about it, but basically how it works is you either need to be nominated by one core developer who have probably seen your reviews and think you are ready for additional privileges, or you can actually self-nominate. You can nominate yourself saying, I have made lots of contributions and I'm ready for additional, responsibilities and I want to help out. And your self-nomination only need to be approved by one coordinator. It doesn't even need a big poll, or you don't need to reach out to hundreds of different people. Just one person to approve your request, and then you can become a triage. And the criteria for this, before deciding whether we want to nominate you for the triage membership, is just we just need to see that you've been actively contributing in various forms, not just about quantity, not just creating pull requests, but if you've been reviewing other people's and you have good and positive interactions with the team, I think very likely we will approve your self-nomination. And we are basically bound by the PSF code of conduct. So we want to see that you have been open, you've been considerate and respectful. So here's the list of some of the most recent nominations for triage privileges. All of this happens in the last year. I think last year we have 11 new triages, 11 or 12. So it's easy for us to grant triage privileges. It just needs you to actually show up and do some work. So you can read all of this in case you like to see examples of the kind of work and contributors other people have done in order to become a triager. And they all actually do different things. The first one on the list here, Bernie, he actually nominated himself, and he made lots of contributions to Pathway. So we saw his contributions, and we, after reviewing his activities, we approved and granted him the privileges actually only last week. Michael, he is a creator of Biodite, and he has helped solve some of the release blocker for Python 3.11. Thomas Granger, he contributed to ASIC.io, and Carl, I believe he also self-nominated, like he asked a core developer to vouch for him, but he got the triage privilege. He is one of the Django core team actually, and he also have authored several PEPs. Now, what about how to become a Python core developer? So this is a little bit more difficult to obtain, but not impossible. This is just very important role that we define is in a PEP. So in PEP 13, there is a section that explains what's expected of Python core developers. It's basically everything I've described to you today. Like you need to be making lots of contributions, positive interactions, not just quantity, but also quality. And the contributions can be in any form. So not just code and PRs, but anything that is needed, helping others, reviewing, and be willing to dedicate your time to improve Python. And unlike the triage privilege, in which you can self-nominate and only require one approval from another core developer, this is a more formal process. You need to actually be nominated by an existing Python core developer, and the core developer who nominated you will then open a poll, and you need to receive at least 2/3 positive votes in that poll. And then if the poll passed, the steering council will then review the poll, the result, and not veto you. After that, then you will be granted the core developer privileges. And again, to get an idea of, what are the kind of work people do as before they become core developer, I've shared some of the most recent core developers we onboarded last year. I think we also have quite a number. I think we have probably 6 or 7 new core developers in the last year. And all of them here were promoted after first receiving the triage privileges. So first they contributed, they become a triager after a certain time, after because of their consistent and continued activities and contributions. the core developers recognized their work and then granted them the core developer privileges. So you can go to these links and see their nomination statements to get an idea of what kind of contributions they did. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you all learn on how you can contribute to Python in the year 2023, and I really look forward to seeing your contributions. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Mariatta. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I didn't see many questions from anybody else, but I had questions, so I'm gonna go first with the questions tonight. You mentioned, like, to get started, you showed like forking the repository and pulling the code down to your machine, and then running the test cases for new code contributions back into Python. Are there requirements around coverage? Obviously you want to have unit tests, but do you have some automated testing coverage requirements that happen as well?
We don't have coverage right now because we tried adding the coverage in the past. I think it was flaky, it was not consistent. It ended up blocking us from merging PRs. So right now the requirement is just make sure it passed. And we have to manually inspect, like if you make changes to something, if there is no test got updated in the code alongside it, then we will ask you to make a
Yeah.
test. Yeah. Mhm.
Does anyone else? I have more questions, but I don't want to hog all the spotlight here for questions. If anyone else has a question, please feel free to either unmute or throw it in the chat, and we can make sure we get your burning questions about becoming a Python core developer answered. Actually, what's incredible about becoming a Python core developer, you just have to do it. I think anybody here is capable of becoming a
Mhm.
Python core developer. It's about where you want to spend your time, and about getting involved in the community. It sounds like becoming a triager is obviously the first step to becoming a Python core developer, and that's a self-nomination.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's we only have the triage role recently because GitHub just introduced it in 2019, I think, or 2020, 2019. So this is very new process even for all of us, but it's been quite successful. I think since we introduced the triage role, a lot of them do end up becoming core developers. So and honestly, even as a core developer, all the things you do as a triager, that's what you do. You review, you help others. Um,
Well, it feels like a low bar to entry to be getting involved.
it's okay. I it's a low bar. It just needs your time to do
Time,
it,
right?
right? And I feel like that's different based on people. Some people say, I'm very free, I don't have a lot of things going on, and that's great. And we actually have, in the recent years, we have a few people who are students, like university students who became core developers. Like, so you really don't need to first become, experienced programmer to do this. You just have to want to do it and willing to spend time and commit to it.
Well, that dovetails perfectly into the next question. Actually, Ashish and I both had the exact same next question, which was, you mentioned there was tags on certain issues like documentation, for example. Are there some tags on issues that are good for a new person to the community who would want to start with something that's not so large or maybe look kind of scary looking?
This is tricky because we do have the good first issues tags. The problem is usually it gets fixed very quickly. Like
Yeah.
in half an hour, somebody found it and fixed it. Also, sometimes it seems like a small thing and end up it's more complicated than it sounds.
Just like
And
most
you
things in
can
software development.
yeah, and you can't know it unless you actually start trying to fix it. So I really recommend that you choose something that you care about just because it will take time from you. You shouldn't be just, you should strategize, how to put your effort into it. If you care about certain module, then there is a way for you to subscribe just for that module and start learning. Um, I really recommend just learn the code base and try to fix things later on.
Now, can anyone make a pull request against the Python core repository, and then it goes through the triager process?
Yeah, anyone can open, if you have a GitHub account, you can open a PR. But we do, so the CPython gets a lot of traffic, so we might feel annoyed. Maybe that's too hard of a work if people make spam PRs, which we have seen. So if the PR is not yet ready, you can just make it against your own fork. And only when you are ready for it to be reviewed, you can open it against the main repository.
The tip there is don't make work in progress type pull request.
Yeah, unless you're a core developer. Unless also it's something that's been discussed, like you've seen lots of discussions happening in the issue, and then you want to make a proof of concept, that's okay. But if you are, yeah, like I think recently there was a question, like I just want to learn how to make this change. Well, in that case, you can just make it on your own repo. You don't need to create a PR against the main CPython repo.
Okay. Jimmy has a question about the differences between the types of contributions that a triager and a core dev makes.
There's really no difference. The only thing the triager cannot do at this point is to merge the PR. But everything else you can do. You can review, you can leave a comment. Um, yeah. Okay, the other thing you cannot do as a triager, you cannot vote in the steering council election. But you can do, like even as a non-triager, you can do a lot of things similar to what a core dev would normally do, other than merging it.
And then how does the steering council work? That's relatively new as well.
Oh, yeah. So the steering council, I think I forgot the PEP number, but there's a PEP that describes the roles and the process. Basically, it's 5 people who are elected once a year, um, and only the existing core developers can vote right now. I'm not sure if it's still a good process. Again, it's still new. We might want to reevaluate it in the next few years. But I think people have been happy with the steering council model so far. Um, yeah, I don't know what I can say about it. I'm not in the steering council myself.
Well, it was a major change from the previous model, which was the benevolent dictator for life model, where we just had Guido at the top saying blessing or not blessing,
Right.
to come in.
Yeah.
The peps.
Yeah, and now it's instead of one person, it's like 5 people who I from what I hear they meet weekly, and the steering council members actually posted their meetings with meeting notes. So there's the github.com/python/steering-council. That's the repository for the management of steering council. You can see what gets discussed in those meetings. So it's not very secretive. It's very open and transparent. But basically, yeah, they will review when you have big changes like PEPs, or you have a new core developer you wanna onboard. The steering council's reviews incoming PEPs, and potential new core developers. It's actually a lot of work. I don't think I can meet once a week and review all the PEPs. It's a lot of work.
That's a group of dedicated people. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen the people who are on it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they've invested a lot of time into Python the language and Python the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have lots of
Passion.
respect.
A lot of tears possibly have even been shed over this.
Lots of respect to people on the steering council. I think they're doing a great job
Yeah, me too.
for sure.
I'm happy with how that turned out.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. It's definitely less burden on a singular person. Like I could see why Guido had to step down. I was there. I see what made him have to step down, you know. And I think with the group of 5 people getting to discuss before they make decisions has been better, like even as for the Python community.
That's been awesome. Any more questions? That was kind of the questions I had or that came from the two chat channels that I'm currently monitoring. If anybody else has got a burning question for Mariatta, please feel free to unmute. Otherwise, we'll jump into the door prize drawing. We've got five door prizes tonight. It's a New Year's miracle. Any other questions? All right. Well, if not, again, a huge round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Mariatta,
everybody.
for being with us. That was actually, I hope it encourages some folks to go out and actually become a triager or to get involved with the documentation or make a pull request and know how to do it in a way that's going to not annoy the current core developers. Because I think everyone will love to contribute. They just don't all know how. And so this has been a great primer for that. Alrighty, we will do the door prize drawings right now. Must be present to win. I'm going to share my screen. So you should see my terminal here. And as usual, I will do my Python live code. You have to forgive me. I don't know if I even have Python 3.11 installed, even though it is like 60% faster. But I think this will be okay for tonight's Python drawing. We're actually going to use pandas to do our drawing. And we'll do pd read. I managed to save the file off as CSV. And this is the RSVPs for tonight. So we've got all the RSVPs. If you RSVP through meetup.com, you are automatically in the drawing and ready to go. Oh, look at that. Oh, I probably should assign it to a variable so I can actually do something useful with it. And we'll import random. And now we'll do a random choice. And we'll just do PD name. I love pandas. It has made my life so easy. It makes me look like a genius when I go off and do cool live codes like this. Because really, well, if I wouldn't have made the accidental read of the data without putting into a variable, it's like 4 lines of code. And Jimmy gets our first license for PyCharm Professional. I think Jimmy's here, right? He asked the question. Yes.
Yeah, I'm here. Awesome.
You are our first winner of a license of PyCharm Professional. So this will be our second license of PyCharm Professional. Linda, I didn't see Linda. Is Linda here? I don't think Linda's here.
I didn't see her today.
I haven't either. Paul. Is Paul here? Must be present to win. I want you all to show up if you're going to get these fabulous prizes. I don't think Paul's here either. I don't see a son. Now, our son's here.
Yep, I'm here.
Congratulations. You are.
Thank you so much. What do I win?
You get a PyCharm Professional license for the next year for free.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Alexander's here as well. You get our third PyCharm Professional license, Alexander.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Zolk's not here. And I think he won like 2 months ago as well. Alan, is Alan here? I don't see Alan. Anthony in the room? I don't think so. David Soul's not here. He's like one of our biggest fanboys, not here. Sean, I did not see Sean, although I'm surprised I haven't seen him all. Jackie's here. Jackie, you are our fourth winner of our
Thank you.
license. So enjoy that.
Thank you.
We have one last door prize we're going to do. That's going to be for the Adafruit PyPortal from JFrog. So you can thank the last 4 prizes, JetBrains. This one will be for our Adafruit PyPortal, and it'll go, David's not here. Just John. I don't think we even have a Just John in the room. This is based on your name on meetup.com is what this is. I don't think Adam's here either. I would recognize if Adam jumped in the room. Michael here?
So,
I don't think so. Vic. I don't see Vic. Adam, nope. We had a lot of RSVPs. I'm surprised more folks didn't show up. Manish
Manish was here.
was here, I thought. Port must be present to win. Gotta stick to that rule policy. Joy Deep, I don't see Joy Deep either. Speak up if you come by and I don't call you. Kenneth, because I'm trying to scan the names quickly, using as our QA person says, their visual grep. I don't see Paige. Ellen. I don't see Ellen. Nicholas. Paul. Paul wasn't here. Justin, you are here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You win the Pi portal.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, if you've not seen it, it's pretty cool. It's a embedded Python, circuit Python with a full big nice display on it.
Very cool.
You can do all your favorite
Thank you.
IoT Internet of Things based projects that way. Awesome. Well, thank you all for showing up tonight for IndiePython. Again, thanks again, Mariatta. really, that was an awesome talk. I really enjoyed hearing about the kind of core dev experience, and it's more than I shared your same thought process around it. I thought I had to be a C programmer to be a Python core dev. Thought that was hard, hard stuff if I couldn't do C programming. Last time I did C programming was back in 1994, and I was in college, and I've not done any since. So.
Yeah, I definitely hear a lot of people who said, "Oh, I can't contribute because I don't know C," but you really don't need it.
Yeah, it's true. Obviously, Python. Most of the Python standard library is implemented in Python, and the Python standard library is some of the magic of Python. And so, if you can write Python, you can contribute to the standard library. I love that. Yeah, if any of y'all have questions or comments or anything you want to share with Mariatta, eternal gratitude for being a Python core dev. I will definitely share that with you. Again, thank you so much for all you all do. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for Python, the language.
This is my first time here, and I'm just beginning out in Python. What are the shortcuts that you can suggest to learn this better?
The standard library's documentation has an excellent tutorial. I would also recommend, there's a lot of Udemy and type things that are out there. There is a controversial tutorial called Python the Hard Way, but I think it's actually a really good intro to learning Python and all the ins and outs of Python. So those are the things. Mariatta, what would you suggest for someone new to the language?
For me, I found, and I hear this from a lot of people, you just learn by doing, right? Just try to come up, random situations and think about how would I solve this in Python? How would I do this in Python? How would I automatically generate slideshows using Python code, right? Which is possible, right?
And actually, that brought to mind a couple good books by Al Schweigert. Automate the Boring Stuff with Python is an excellent guide, exactly like you just said. How can I just take a random everyday task and automate with Python and not even do no object-oriented programming? It's going to be just straight Python automation. And then he recently released, well, I guess maybe a year or two ago, kind of 100 simple Python projects.
Yeah.
Book that is probably also really good because it's a lot of I'm going to type some stuff in and get that muscle memory and understand how to solve those kinds of problems. Two really good books by Al.
I totally agree with those, and I have one of his book as well right there, the Automate the Boring Things.
Yeah.
It's
I got
really
right behind me.
yeah. I think the other thing I could think of, which I would recommend, Hunter has a Python morsels exercises.
Yeah.
He sent once a week or something. Just I think all of these small exercises is a great way to just get started building something, and nobody needs to know whether it's high quality or not. At least you did something, right? It doesn't need to be all well documented or well tested. That can come after, you know.
Yeah. Python Morsels is an excellent resource. Trey has spent a lot of time,
Mhm.
working on exercises that exercise that that muscle memory. A lot of us just doing it. If anything you can think of, like I've stopped using Excel in favor of pandas. And so I will take a little longer to do something in pandas to learn how to do it. But the next time I go do something where I'm doing a pivot table or filtering or doing a random choice contest in pandas, it's a
Yeah,
lot easier.
yeah, yeah. I even for me, like sometimes for simple things, I want to know how many days until something an event. Like I don't look at the calendar and count the weeks. I go to Python, import date time.
And there's some
Another
awesome,
question.
like speaking of that, there's some awesome libraries out there. Like some of the ones you'll run across immediately are gonna be like the request library for doing like
Mm,
HTTP easy. But there's a couple date libraries like dateutil and like Arrow. And what's the other one that I'm thinking of? There's some really nice date libraries because the standard library for dates is okay, but maybe a little hard to kind of wrap your head around. Some people have written some really nice libraries around dates. So for doing those kinds of calculations is really nice.
yeah, I think the date time module, the date library in the Python just got better in the recent versions. There were a few things that got added by Paul Gansel, who was the date util maintainer, who is now core developer. There were things that I used to needed a third-party library, and now in the newer version of Python, everything's built in, like the time zone things. Yeah.
I would agree with that.
I have another question with regards to the level of mathematics a person needs in order to program well.
Mm, I don't know about that. I think it depends on. I don't. It depends on your field. I would
Yeah.
imagine those in that data scientists might
Right.
need more of this, but I don't think you need very advanced level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. For me, I didn't really need it for like almost 20 years till I got into some
Hmm.
engineering projects, and then I had to remember stuff I'd learned 20 years before, dust off the calculus book.
Yeah, I also remember like that's right. Like for even stuff like calculus, I only needed when I was doing computer graphics, but otherwise, basic math, basic arithmetics are fine.
We have another question in there. Which standard module does Marietta think is the most underrated or understudied?
Oh,
What's interesting
I
is with
don't know.
I mean, in every release of Python, it seems like new libraries get added and libraries get taken away too. There's things that
Yeah,
anymore.
I don't have an answer right now. I don't have opinion. I know what is my favorite feature that I can share.
What's your favorite standard
I
library?
Well, it's the F strings for sure. The next one, the switch statements are actually I didn't think I would use it. Like I never needed it in Python, but I have used it in other languages. That's that's also something I didn't realize I appreciate, and only after it came out. Yeah, pattern matching.
Uh,
I haven't used a lot of the assignment expressions. I want to learn to use it more, but I know those who have started using it, they said they really like it.
I picked up on it and it feels natural, it works and reads well.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't force using it.
Right. And that's the thing because it's optional for you can do it without assignment
Yeah.
expression. So it's great that the language provides it. Yeah.
I'd say my favorite standard library is the collections module.
Ah.
There's some really cool stuff in that collections module that'll save you a ton of time.
Oh, thinking about that, now I have something that I feel, I think people who know it have used it. The ABC
Yeah.
library, the abstract base class. I have started using it more to define, base class and and the inheritance, like the subclasses. I have seen examples where people build inherited class without ABC and they have to define their own, this is going to be abstract and there's not implemented, like they raise the not implemented error in their code, but all of those can be built in and handled by the ABC module. So if you haven't used it, take a look.
That's one thing I love about Python is that a lot of those things are still optional. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to use the ABC module to be a productive Python developer. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to use type hints to be a productive Python developer. But when you start adopting those things, or when people come to the language and you're like, oh, where's my static types, or whatever, like it's there, it's available now, and it feels natural, like async. It took a long time for us to
Mm-hmm.
get that async story straight, but I feel like we got it right.
Yeah. Async IO, if I can say, async IO is something I hear a lot, and it's actually, we don't have a lot of maintainers of async IO right now. So if you're looking for an area to contribute, this could be an area you can become an expert in.
Hmm. Excellent. All right, folks. Well, I think unless there's any other questions or comments or discussions, we may conclude this edition of IndiePy.